Welcome back to the part 2 of the video of deployment of agentless monitoring on K3S. In part 1, we had successfully deployed K3S and also the containerized suite for agentless monitoring. In this video, we would be looking at onboarding of SiteScope. In the previous video, we had deployed the containerized suite and we had seen that all the pods had come up and it was successfully running. Now we would be onboarding SiteScope onto this containerized suite. So in our case, I have already installed SiteScope, that is 2020-05 SiteScope, and have it up and running with one monitor setup on it. Okay, so what is it that we need to do for the SiteScope? So there are a series of steps that are mentioned here. So we need to add user roles and groups. Okay, so let us see what needs to be done here. Yeah, so they are saying that we need to create a few user roles, user role profiles that exist in IDM for agentless monitoring. Okay, so on the SiteScope side, the user roles, that is the sysadmin and the sysuser, which are there in IDM, are out of the box, so we need not create them. We need to create the similar role on SiteScope. So the roles, so let us see what user roles are available on IDM, and we will create the same on our SiteScope. So how do we access the IDM is we had our notepad which had all the details about the URLs that are required. So how do I use the admin here? This is my IDM URL, and it is what? Okay. We had created the passwords for our admin and all, and we have saved the same thing in our secrets.yaml, so we use the same password. So using that same password, yes, it takes us to this. We go to system settings, okay, go to the organization, and we click on our suite icon. Oh yeah, here we have the rules, groups, and also let us see roles. So anything related to SiteScope is not here. Let us check in the next page. Yes, so we do see that there are two SiteScope roles that are mentioned. So we will have a look into it, what roles are. This is just a SiteScope role name, and the next one also we have the SiteScope user. This is the SiteScope user access for SiteScope. Okay. So what does it talk about in our documentation? Yeah, add users and roles in IDM. So in IDM, we usually get this out of the box. So these are the user roles that we should be using. So there are other users also there, which should be there in the IDM. So let me see, there's also exists. Agentless monitoring admin, agentless monitoring user. Monitoring service user role on these and that. So now let us go back to our IDM and check what is there in the groups. So there is a SiteScope admin group, and SiteScope admin group has these roles already associated. So let us even associate the admin role to it, the admin user role, because that will be the login that we will be using to log into this. So the other group also, even for the user group, let us associate the admin group. So now that we have seen that there are two user roles that are defined in the IDM, so we need to create similar roles in SiteScope UI also. So we will on my setup, yes, I have already created the SiteScope users. Yeah, while the SiteScope loads, we will quickly look at what needs to be done by the user on the SiteScope side. So we need to create two user roles, and the operator role and the admin role, and we also need to make some changes in our master.config file. Okay. So let me continue here. So we need to update a few settings in our master.config file. So let us do that. On our SiteScope, we go to Preferences, Infrastructure Preferences. So settings, no. Under custom settings, we need to look for IDM auth service endpoint. Okay. Under custom settings, it is IDM. So IDM should be on top. Yeah. Dynamic enabling from address. Yeah, I do have my IDM server endpoint here. So we will have to update it with our system on which we have installed or deployed our agentless monitoring. Okay, so I will update this. So I am updating it with my system on which I have deployed this one, agentless monitoring. That is one step that we have to do. For now, we are not using any proxy or the proxy host, and we would have to import our control plane certificates. So, from the certificate manager, certificate management, let us, we need to save this. From certificate management, we will give our system name, we will give the host name where we have deployed our agentless monitoring, and the load. It will list the certificates available. So we import both the certificates. Yes. So after, what are the other steps that we need to do? Let us go back to the documentation. Yes, and we need to create 2 user roles. That is a sysadmin, sysuser, add user groups, sysuser and sysadmin. SiteScope. So we go to user management. I have already created the users, sysadmin and sysuser. Just make sure that when you create these users, the name of the user role be this is admin, space sensitive, and make sure it give all the permissions here. So same with the sysuser role also. Now that we have made changes to our server settings, let us restart SiteScope. Okay, so while SiteScope restarts, let us go with the other steps. Okay, we are here, add SiteScope certificates. We have already done this during our install. If you remember, we had already given the SiteScope certificate to be part of our deployment. So we are skipping this. Then we will be setting up the monitoring CLI. Okay, so we will go to the next step, that is setting up of the monitoring CLI. Okay. Yes. So how do we get this CLI? It is very simple. We just have to put this command that is there in this one, and we will use the system that we have been using. So this will allow us to download the CLI. So the CLI is downloaded for us. Just go here in the same folder. And in the download folders it is there. So let me open a command prompt to execute my CLIs. Yes. Okay, I am here in this location where I have downloaded the CLI. Now what do we do? So the first thing that we do is we set up the server, then we set up the user, then the password. Yes, so this is just setting up the URL. So let us go ahead and set up the required CLI. Looks like I did not copy it. And go back. And I give the name. Yes, I would want to trust the certificate. Yes, this is set. So the next one would be to set the user. We'll have to set the user and then the password. Okay. So let us go back to our system. Insert username it asks for, say admin, and set the password. So I will give the same password that we had set in our secrets.yaml. Yeah, the password is also set. Now going back to our documentation. We are done with the basic setting of the CLI. Now we will go for the onboarding of SiteScope system into the new centralized UI. So here what do we have added the users, we have set up the monitoring CLI. Now we have to create the provider groups in provider. So for this also we use the, so provider group will be the folder in which we would be having our SiteScope installed. So let us have groups like this will be basically the tree structure or the directory structure that we would be specifying in what do you say, in our environment to differentiate between the various SiteScope you are monitoring. So let us give a group name like based on the region or something. So let us go to our CLI and create. So provider group name, this could be your XYZ company based on your region. See, you can see North America. Americas, you can give this. So this is going to be a provider group. So under provider group, you would have various providers. So those will be your SiteScope instances. So I have got this one, and let us go back to the documentation. Now that we have created a provider group, we need to onboard the provider. So before we can go ahead and onboard the provider, first we need to specify the target. So the target here would be the SiteScope that we are using. So we will create a target that will be the SiteScope name. Here is the internal name, so this can be anything. This is not something that would appear for us in the display of the UI. So I would say this one is my SIS underscore New York. So this is the SiteScope name that I would be having. Then this is the target name. Then target endpoint is going to be our SiteScope URL. Yeah, this is going to be our SiteScope URL. I would not be using any credential. Okay, let me go back and complete the command. Target endpoint will be HTTPS I will give my SiteScope URL, and then the subtype is being SiteScope URL, and use credential. I'm not using any credentials for now. I left one extra hash. Okay. Yeah. Now the target is also set. Now we need to give a provider name. So how do we specify the provider? So we say create provider name, and type is going to be SiteScope. We give the provider group that we had created, then the target and the target name. Okay. So I would say the provider name, I would give it as New York or SiteScope underscore. So this is the New York site system. That's the SiteScope server that's there in New York. I have given this provider name is New York, and type is going to be SiteScope. Then we have the provider group name. Provider group name would be the name that we had created earlier. And then we would specify the target name. So target name also we had created earlier. So what is the name of the target? It is this. Okay. Now let us see what happens. Yeah. So now when we see we get providers, it is going to list this. So this will be one of the things that will be visible for us. So under the XYZ company underscore Americas, we will see one of the SiteScope instance running with the name New York. So let us quickly go and check in our UI now if we are able to see what is required. So how do we access the UI? It is just that the host name with the port and /UI. So it should be equals to the admin UI or the monitoring control admin UI. So we can access it here in the administration. So this is the administration under the monitoring tab, agentless monitoring. So this is something that is got deployed for us. And yeah, now under agentless monitoring, yeah. So we do see our group, that is the XYZ company Americas, and this is the SiteScope instance that we had created, and you can see give me a moment. Now that we have set up all the required parameters on SiteScope, let us go to the admin UI and see if we were able to onboard the SiteScope. So how do we access the admin UI? It is our server name, port and UI. Here we've logged in. And once we go to the administration, there is this monitoring tab. So click on that and select agentless monitoring. So under agentless monitoring, we should be able to see the provider group that we had created, that is the XYZ company _ Americas. And under that, the SiteScope instance. Currently, this one we have mentioned it as New York. So in case it had more SiteScopes, then the instances, then that would get listed here. So let us see what happens when we click on the SiteScope instance name, which is the provider name. Yeah. So if you see here, this is listing the current health dashboard of your SiteScope, and it also lists the group that you have and also the monitor that you had created. So all the monitors that you have in SiteScope would appear here, and you can also look at the details of your monitor on the left hand side. This allows you to create a few monitors, around 23 monitors, and also edit them from here. But for the other activities, yes, the other monitors and the other activities like creation of the monitors, reports, and those things, you need to use the classic UI. This also provides us the option to create targets, or the remote host as used to call. So we have remote host here. So this is what we have in our current install of agentless monitoring deployment on K3S. This is the end of part 2 of the video. We have successfully onboarded one instance of SiteScope and also were able to view the same in the monitoring admin UI. We should be able to onboard multiple SiteScope instances on the same monitoring admin UI and view and modify the instances on the single window view. Thanks for watching.